the Democratic Republic of Congo's elections next week will be a big challenge for incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi's leadership. The instability in the eastern part of the country does remain a thorny issue. Tshisekedi held a rally yesterday in his hometown of Mbuji-Mayi. SABC News reporter Ditaba, Tsotetsi, and video journalist Thulo Monare are covering the story for us. Ditaba, a good morning to you. I think let's talk firstly about what you're seeing, about what those preparations are looking like ahead of the elections.
Well, Naledi, we are coming live from Kinshasa, the capital city of DRC. The date of the elections, as you have just said, is fast approaching, and many political parties here are campaigning. The campaigning has been intensified here in the DRC, in the different parts of the country. But for more on this, we are now joined by our correspondent here in the DRC, Chris Ochamringa. Chris, thank you very much for your time. A very, very important occasion here in the country. But let's start with the importance of these elections.
Yes, so the DRC's 2023 election is very crucial because it's being held under very complex social and political context, characterized with a lack of consensus among some of the candidates regarding the head of the Electoral Commission and the Constitutional Court. These are two very important institutions that are supposed to ensure free and fair elections, transparency. So there are people who are saying that the head of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Denis Kadima, is close to President Felix Tshisekedi. He comes from the same ethnic group as the president. And so they believe that he might not be able to organize free and fair elections. So that's one issue. The other is the insecurity in the east. Ever since 2021, there was a conflict that was started by the M23 rebels. This is a group of Tutsi militia groups, and they have captured a number of territories in North Kivu province. So there are two areas, Masisi and Ruchuru, that will not be able to vote. Millions of people have been displaced, and they are asking the government, to end this insecurity. There's also the issue of widespread poverty in this country that is endowed with a lot of mineral resources. People have been suffering. The World Bank says in the DRC, about 70% of people are living on less than $2 a day, despite all the wealth they have, gold, uranium, coltan, and other mineral resources. So people want to see a new dawn in this country. They want to enjoy a new life. And so the presidential candidates have been traversing the country, promising people to turn around their fortunes if they are elected.
Especially talking about the security in the eastern part of the country, Chris. Is the Electoral Commission able to assist the people there to be able to exercise their right to vote, to choose their own new leadership next week?
So the Electoral Commission issued a statement saying that they will not be able to assist the people in some parts of North Kivu, particularly Masisi and Ruchuru, because those areas are being controlled by the M23 rebels. They could not register people to vote in that area, and many other people who were registered have been displaced to other areas. So voting for people in that area is going to be very difficult. And there's also another part of the western part of DRC known as Mai-Ndombe province, where there has been community clashes, and there are not going to be elections, unfortunately, in that area as well. So these conflicts in DRC are really having a very big impact on the right of people to exercise the civic duty to vote the new election, and many people are urging the government to deal with this insecurity so that they can live normal lives and enjoy the wealth of this country.
With some of the residents not being able to vote next week, how is this going to affect the elections, especially the outcome of the elections? Because we know that different parts of the country, many people are supporting different presidential candidates, different political parties. How is this going to affect the elections next week? And also, I remember, Chris, in one of your reports, you said around or more than 5,000 people, their names did not appear on the voters' roll, but they did the register. How did the Electoral Commission respond on that?
So we sought a response from the Electoral Commission, but they did not, give us any response to that. And many people have been complaining about, the preparations for these elections. There are people in the opposition who are urging the Electoral Commission to postpone the elections which are scheduled for the 20th, because they said there are very many signs that show that they are not prepared. Just last week, the Electoral Commission requested the government to provide them with the funding to get helicopters and some planes to supply some of these voting materials in areas that are hard to reach, because the DRC has a problem with infrastructure. Many of the roads, especially in the remote parts of the country, are impassable, especially during this rainy season. So, coming at a time when elections are just a week away, many people were skeptical whether these elections will really be held, in a credible manner. So there are really serious concerns from the opposition, civil society and observers whether the Electoral Commission will be able, to organize credible elections. And there are also fears of post-election violence because some of the supporters of these candidates are very, very tense about this election. They believe that their candidates should win. There have been reports about some sentiments thrown at opposition candidates who are seen not to be, real Congolese citizens. So there are a number of issues on social media. People are attacking each other, and there are fears that, there might be some unrest after the outcome of this election is announced. But many people, especially in the religious leaders, have been urging people to be peaceful and exercise their duty in a very peaceful manner.
Let's talk about the main contender, Moise Katumbi. There are information coming out that the constitution of the country is going to make a ruling whether he's eligible to contest these elections. Do you have any information on that situation?
Well, the Constitutional Court in the DRC pronounced itself and said that Moise Katumbi is eligible to stand for president in this country. There was a concern about his nationality, which has been, going around on social media, and some opposition members who are saying that, Moise Katumbi was born to a Greek, Jewish father from Greece and a Congolese mother. And so there is a presidential candidate known as Noel Chani who brought in he drafted a law which has not yet been passed in Congo, which was supposed to ensure that it was supposed to bar people whose if both your parents are not Congolese, then you're not fit to become the president of this country because you have divided loyalties. But there are very many Congolese citizens who have mixed parentage. And so that law, a number of MPs said that it was not fair, and they did not discuss it in Parliament. There's also the international community said that it was going to create a lot of problems. And the DRC constitution says that prohibits politicians who are seeking political office to hold dual citizenship. But quite a number of them hold passports of Belgium, France, and it's well known in the DRC. So Moise Katumbi has been traversing the country telling people that he's going to end the insecurity, he's going to create jobs with his track record of being a wealthy businessman. He said he's going to change the fortunes of this country. It's something that is easier said than done because this country has very huge problems that date back more than 50 years ago, and it requires a critical mass of Congolese people who have the same vision, to work with a leader in power to change it. An individual alone cannot be able to change all these problems that the DRC has had for more than 50 years.
And also on that, Chris, you are talking about their manifesto. So we understand that, or you remember that when the incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi, when he came into power, he promised the people of Congo that he is going to change their lives. He is going to improve the economy of the country. The economy, people will be employed. He will deal with the poverty among the people of this country. In your view or your assessment, he has achieved all those promises?
No, he hasn't achieved all of them. He has made some reforms. For instance, he introduced free primary school education and maternity care for mothers, pregnant mothers, which has been well received in the Congo. He has also built some roads and some schools, especially in remote parts of the country where there used to be no schools and roads. And he has promised to diversify the economy in Congo, which has been relying heavily on revenues from the mining sector. So agriculture, create jobs for the young people, but there's still a lot more that needs to be done. For instance, the insecurity. President Tshisekedi said that in his first term that he will end that insecurity, and if he hasn't ended it, then that will be a failure on his first term. But the insecurity has gotten worse, although he has promised and he has asked people to give him a second term to finish what he has started. We know for a fact that the DRC has bought a lot of weapons. It has recruited more young people into the army, and it's preparing, to defend itself from the M23 and other rebel groups that have been wreaking havoc, terrorizing the ordinary civilians in eastern DRC. So I would say it's a mixed bag. He has made some achievements that have really excited some Congolese, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. For instance, corruption is a very big problem, and that is something that he has not yet been able to deal with.
Before I let you go, Chris, do you think the Congolese will give him a second term?
Well, going by some of the opinion polls that I've seen and the analysis of some leading commentators about the politics in the DRC, it looks like he is one of the front runners, and it looks like he is going to get a second term. In Africa, the power of incumbency is really big. He has a lot of resources, he has the army backing him, and so he's likely to win. Moise Katumbi is one of his closest challengers, but his opponents have been really talking about this issue of his nationality, and trying to, sideline him. The other candidates like Martin Fayulu, who was the runner-up in the 2018 elections, he's not as popular as he was back then. And then we also have the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize winner, Dr. Denis Mukwege, who is also one of the challengers, but he is more popular in eastern DRC, not in other parts of the country. So President Felix Tshisekedi is likely to get a second term in the DRC.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much for your time. Chris, that was our correspondent in the DRC, Chris Ochamringa, unpacking the upcoming elections here in the DRC, the challenges and the achievements of the current administration. We understand that more than 20 candidates are going to vie for the top position for these upcoming elections on Wednesday. Back to you in studio.